So I'm currently making my way to Iowa City after partaking in a dismal tournament. And I'm not gonna lie, it had a lot to do with my fatigue, my sleep going in, because I'm gonna show you one of the games. It was on the cusp of brilliance, but actually I still ended up winning the game, but it wasn't anything I'm going to be posting on my refrigerator. The reality is, I stayed up too late and I got punished for it. I only played 3 rounds of the 5, but I'm not hoping, I will be redeeming myself in another week, this weekend. I'm going to the Quad Cities, and I'm gonna destroy. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, we're getting closer now. So after C5, I felt really good about my position. All my pieces are developed. I have pretty good control over whatever he's trying to generate on the queen side. And after taking, I get rid of my d pawn and open the file to my rook. And if I get rid of the pawns, my bishop begins to outperform his knight. He takes back with the queen. I then play bishop to a5. His rook goes to d7, and then I play rook to d3. And this was, I'm guessing, this is not much of a, this is just positional chess. I could be setting up for a trick. I'm keeping open the option of removing, because his knight is really good. And I do not want it to stay there. And I have a sort of deflection tactic to hit him with if he loses protection over his knight. Well, I mean, the pawn doesn't count, because the deflection tactic I'm alluding to is pawn to f5. This will remove the pawn, and then it'll be 2 attackers versus 2 defenders. The queen and the rook versus the rook and the queen. It's good enough for black. That's why I need another attacker. So after rook to d3, we have h6, pointless move, rook ed1, purposeful move, and then he plays rook to b7. Probably setting up c5 even though, or b4 even though he doesn't have enough defense to do anything about it. So I play the move f5, and he rewards me with another awkward move, rook c to b8. And then when I take, then this is where I reward him, because at this point, this is the epic blunder. So at this point, I was in my mind, I was like, oh, this kid is just about to have it. And what I was looking at was the move rook takes on d5. I mean, it seems, it's just ridiculous. I feel ridiculous even explaining rook takes d5, because it's an awful move, because his defense is so easy. So what I was in my kooky little mind, I was thinking that rook takes on d5 and pawn takes and rook takes, and I spent all my calculating time just like envisioning the possibilities of like how this game would have ended in checkmate had his queen fallen back to like a7. It's just ridiculous. And I was like, oh man, I would love to win like that, because after queen to a7, then I have rook to d8, king h7, queen g8, king comes to g6, queen or rook to d6, and then king comes to the 5th rank. I bring my queen to the 5th rank, and he's pretty much he's in for it, because g5 will be met with queen to f3, and he'll be, I think that's, yeah, it's checkmate in one move. Pawn g4, queen g4. But and okay, so what's even worse is at the end I was like, okay, now it's time to check. After I finished all the variations, the bias in my mind was like, oh, let's make this this is how I want to win. And then I mean this bias was just raging, and I was like, the last minute I was like being air quote professional, and I was like, okay, now what's all the let's just make sure we check his outs. And the only outs that I checked were the ones that are obvious, that like, oh, g1's going to be met with, or queen g1's going to be met with rook to d1, queen to f8's going to be met with rook to d8, double check, or discovery check, pick off queen. And in my mind I was like, oh, that's all that needed to work, or that's all I needed to check. And then I just like phased out the obvious queen to c4, which just absolutely loses for me. I think the evaluation of this position was -3, about it's completely winning for, I mean, against anybody else I would have just resigned, but since he was like 1600, I might have a chance. And luckily I did. There was another later in the game, there was another position where I could have offered him a repetition, which of course natural person would have, because my position was either equal or slightly worse. But then I was like, okay, wait, if I keep going and if I keep going in this position, and I let him have I avoid the repetition, I could probably still hold and get a draw, but I get to keep playing on, and that's most important. So I did that instead of going for the objective option, and I guess again basing my decision on his rating rather than the position. And it paid off, because I ended up winning an endgame with I think a bishop and 2 pawns, a bishop, 2 pawns, and a rook versus 2 rooks. And I ended up winning that, but it was ominous for the rest of my event, because the following game I lost to a kid that I beat pretty convincingly with the same color less than a month ago. And then I drew to this girl. It's a little over 2,000, but my play was miserable that whole day, and I almost didn't want to post anything, but I gotta. So I'm gonna try and make up, maybe get more sleep, spend more time forcing myself to calculate thoroughly, but that's all I can do until next weekend.